But does it mean that you had to leave ISCON?
Oh, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
I'm very happy.
Why did you have to leave ISCON?
I'm very happy that you asked that question. And just like the answer to your previous good question, the answer is multifaceted.
Sure.
Number one, I'll start with the question back, which I'll also answer. What do you mean by ISCON? Okay?
Yeah.
ISCON is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. When did it start? Did it start with Prabhupada? Did he begin ISCON? If he began ISCON, what is its value? If there was no ISCON before Prabhupada, what is the value of what Prabhupada gave us? The value of what Prabhupada gave us, as he told us, is that he's coming in a long line of disciplic succession. He's coming in a great tradition that goes all the way back to Krishna. I remember, just as we're talking, I'm remembering myself sitting in the very first ISKCON temple in New York City in 26 2nd Avenue, when Prabhupada came back from San Francisco the first time, and we had just decorated, making it more beautiful, and he was very happy. And then he said, I'm coming in the line of disciplic succession. First there's Krishna, then came Brahma, his disciple, then Madhva, then Vyas, Narada, then Vyas, then Madhva, then coming down in the line, as we know in the song, Krishna Hoiti Chaturmukha, or Krishna Seva Mukha. So many then gradually coming to Madhavendra Puripad, who is the first sprout of the tree of our disciplic successions having Madhurya Ras in it. And the whole tree of that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So after Madhavendra Puri came Ishwara Puri, then Mahaprabhu, then the six Goswamis, Rai Ramananda, Swarup Damodar, and then so on down the line. And then he said Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then he said, and we are coming. So if we think that Prabhupada started the whole thing, then we're pulling Prabhupada out of his glory. So then I'll ask another question. Is Prahlad Maharaj ISKCON? Is Dhruva Maharaj ISKCON? Is Brahma ISKCON? Is Vyas ISKCON? Or are they outside of ISKCON? Since we're only supposed to be associating with people from ISKCON, are they outside of ISKCON? So if we consider that, and in that regard I'd like to take a commercial break. Commercial break means I'm going to make a commercial.
Okay.
There's one booklet that we compiled under Śrila Narayanem Maharadž's request as a response to certain articles that were made by ISKCON leaders. ISKCON, the institution's leaders, saying that Śrila Narayanem Maharaj is different, his philosophy opposes Śrila Prabhupada. So there were two ISKCON leaders who wrote two articles. So myself and Prem Priyojana Prabhu and a few other devotees wrote articles in response of that, which showed very conclusively that Śrila Narayanem Maharaj is saying the same thing as Prabhupada, and the people who were saying that Śrila Narayanem Maharaj is different from Prabhupada are actually saying something different from Prabhupada. And we didn't quote anybody but Prabhupada to prove it. So that booklet is called Our Gurus, One in Siddhanta, One at Heart. So if you like, Vasanti can give you a copy of that. Perhaps it's here on the table, one of the book tables, and then if you like you can translate it. If it's not here, into Polish. If it's not here, then you can download it from purebhakti.com and translate it. It's very, extremely interesting. According to your questions as they develop, I can tell you a couple of the interesting features. In there, it says, in fact, the name of one article is called ISKCON the Homonym. You know what a homonym is? Like bear and bear. I can't bear it. My bare arm. Oh, there's a bear in the forest. They're all the same sounds, but they all have totally different meanings. So there's the ISKCON institution, which Prabhupada set up for management. There's the GBC, there's the president, there's the temples, there's all the legal infrastructure to protect the temples, which gets the 501(c) tax exemption status so that devotees can make collections, so that there can be a structured system of temples, and the hierarchy is the vice president, the temple commander. That's one meaning of ISKCON. And then there's the eternal ISKCON, which includes Prahlad Maharaj, which includes Dhruva Maharaj, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ISKCON. There's Rupa Goswami ISKCON. In the Nectar of Instruction, in the introduction, Śrila Prabhupada writes, introduction or preface, Prabhupada writes that the Krishna consciousness movement is going on under the supervision of Śrila Rupa Goswami. And that is why we should read this book. That was the introduction to that book. So Rupa Goswami is ISKCON. All the 6 Goswamis are ISKCON. Madhavendra Puri, Narada. So who's the first ISKCON Acharya? Brahma. Then comes Narada. Then comes Vyas. Then comes Madhva. And in this booklet we have a lot of quotes from Prabhupada saying this. Then in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he writes, when he's talking about the tree, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the whole tree, and Advaitacharya and Nityananda Prabhu are the trunks, and then there's so many branches and so many sub-branches. So then Prabhupada writes that ISKCON is one of the branches of the eternal tree of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then, having given you that prelude to answer your question, I have never left ISKCON. And I'll always consider myself that I have never really even joined ISKCON, because what does ISKCON mean? International Society for Krishna Consciousness means it's the International Society of Pure Devotees. So I want to join ISKCON. The guardians of ISKCON are Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. These are the real members of ISKCON, and I want to be their followers. But in a more commonly known sense, I've never left ISKCON. But why don't I go to the temples, if you want to be more specific, is that all of Srila Gurudev's, Śrila Narayanem Maharadž's followers are banned from going to the ISKCON temples, most of the ISKCON temples. I guess for fear that we'll talk about him and glorify him. There's also a fear that we'll take away the disciples of Prabhupada and bring them to Śrila Narayanem Maharaj. So for those fearful reasons, we are not allowed to go. And even Śrila Narayanem Maharaj is not allowed to go. And movie stars are allowed to go. Drunkards are allowed to go. Ants are allowed to go. And cockroaches are allowed to go. But Śrila Narayanem Maharaj is not allowed to go. One specific... And then if they're going to allow him to go, then they have to have big meetings to discuss the logistics of how he would be allowed to go. And in 1996, somehow or other I was in the house of one devotee who had a GBC letter to all the other GBC members of the logistics of if he's going to be allowed in the temples, how should it proceed.